UFC Vegas 31 has a new main event after Max Holloway was forced to withdraw from his scheduled bout with Yair Rodriguez due to injury. You now have Islam Makhachev versus Thiago Moises being elevated to a 5-round 155 main event. It's a bit surprising when you look through the card. It's not particularly stacked, but you've got the return of Miesha Tate versus Marion Renault, which a lot of people thought would probably get elevated in this particular circumstance since Yair is not being rebooked to fight somebody else. Other than that, not too many notable matchups that you could, elevate or you would think would go up top. But this is a weird one, to say the least. Thiago Moises headlining a fight night I did not expect anytime soon. Makhachev, maybe? Drake, what do we make of this? Because it's definitely kind of out there.
Yeah, I definitely did not expect this fight to be the one that was filling in for something as exciting as a Max Holloway fight, no matter who he's going against somebody like Yair. Extra exciting. I think that's fair to say, even though Yair was getting counted out quite heavily. Don't need to talk about that. Now it's not happening. So instead, Thiago Moises and Islam Makhachev. I think that it was safe to assume, Pat, as you mentioned, Makhachev maybe being in the main event scene sooner rather than later. He's got a lot of hype around him now. Just got that great win over Drew Dober, which was like his return bout. Everyone was calling for a top 10 at the least. Some people were saying top 5, give him top 3. There's a lot of crazy assumptions about Makhachev still early on, in my opinion. But yeah, I was surprised to see him get Moises in the first place. People saying no one wants to fight Makhachev. There's all that debate and argument you can go about, but this is what we're left with. And now it's the main event, which it takes 2 to tango, right? And you can survive off of 1 star, especially in a situation like this. But on the card, as you mentioned, I don't think Makhachev's the biggest star just yet. He is growing quite popular in Russia in particular, as those kind of guys will build up their star power pretty quickly. The fans are very they support their guys a whole lot. So I just don't think it's enough yet. So it was surprising to see this getting over even Jeremy Stevens. I want to say him and Gamrot, which is a fight that I like that fight's happening. I definitely don't think it should be main event at this current stage, more so because of the Jeremy side and how things haven't been great for him. Gamrot, former KSW champion. He's awesome. That'd be really cool to see him get that respect and love, but still not enough. So I think if you were to fill in somebody out of here, it would have only been one of these 3 fights, which is Makhachev, Moises, then Stevens and Gamrot, or Miesha's return, which from a selling point, how do you not go with that one? So I'm very shocked that they didn't go there instead. And I guess when you think about it, maybe the main reason would have been the fact that 5 rounds and Miesha coming back after all this time. Maybe she didn't want to change things that drastically for when she's still, kind of getting back in the swing of things. But she's looking fantastic right now. If you've seen her recent post, she's absolutely shredded, best shape of her life, she says, and it looks like it to me. So, yeah, very surprising that wasn't, we speculated if it was going to be in the first place before Holloway's fight got made. Right. Wasn't safe to be co-main, which it still is now. But yeah, I still would have really thought that they would have went with that one instead. The story is just all there, not even just from Miesha's side, but Renault retiring. Like, that one's got a lot of meat in these unknowns, question marks to it, more so I think than Makhachev and Moises, which does have some little plot points and all that, but it's not as juicy for, I think, especially the casual, Pat.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's weird because Tate is a name that would be recognized to the casual audience, right? The same fans that came and saw Rousey would have seen her fight Tate and would know about the background between the two. Even if they didn't watch that particular fight that came a little bit later, they would know about the history that happened there. And so it's crazy to me that Tate is not in the main event here. I think the only reason I can speculate as to why is, as you said, where maybe she didn't want to do 5 rounds, or Renault said that was a deal breaker for her for whatever reason. And so they opted, hey, we're fine being co-main. We really don't want to be main event. And it's also, again, very possible that they're just kind of looking at Makhachev as that Habib replacement, right? That's what a lot of it. Yeah, definitely. And so I would have assumed to see Makhachev in a main event soon. I really would have, especially against another higher ranked guy. I think that would have been made a lot of sense. In this case, you had a fight fall out. Why not go ahead and just push him early? Just push him up to 5 rounds early, push him up to the main event against Moises, who he should easily get through. It's still weird, though, because, Moises is not bad. Moises is very good, but it just doesn't seem like a main event at all. And I don't know. There's got to be some business reasoning there. Somebody must have either rejected the 5-round, or they're thinking that Makhachev's numbers have been very good, especially after he beat Dober and as he's being hyped by fans as the new Khabib. I'm not really sure. Maybe it's a target could easily be a target towards the Dagestani audience that Khabib kind of cultivated right before he left. And then you had Chimaev kind of taking up that mantle, but then he's been out. So now you've got someone else who can kind of fill that role as a superstar from that region that can get all of those fans that were Khabib fans to kind of hopefully come back. That also could play into it. So a lot of different ways you can think about it, but it's an odd one. The only thing with this matchup that I can see being kind of enticing is that, this is a fight where Moises is going to want to be on the ground, right? I mean, this should be a good ground battle type of scenario. But for 5 rounds, I don't know. What is your thought on how this matchup is going to play out? Is it just going to be Makhachev ragdolling him? Is it going to be, anything other than that? And we're just going to see it for 5 rounds instead of 3?
I mean, I think that's a fairly safe assumption. Maybe he could finish it before then, but again, Moises is phenomenal on the ground himself in just different ways, as you kind of alluded to right there. But I don't know. I feel like I don't think Moises will look to take it to the ground unless he goes for some, rolling knee bars or anything like that against Michael Johnson and what have you. But if you look at his last fight against Alexander Hernandez, that was mostly stand up from what I remember, and did pretty well and got the win. Hernandez disagreed. That's a whole different thing to look into, as he does. But yeah, I could see Moises trying to keep this on the feet, and I think that's probably a better area for him. I don't think Makhachev's a terrible striker, but he's obviously in that same category of Khabib where his wrestling is so good that his striking is not ever going to look as good. And that's what a lot of people always said about, Khabib isn't a good striker. But you look at it, he was actually pretty good. It's just that what he's best at is just far and away better than anything else. And it's always going to be that way, right? And I don't think Makhachev is there just yet, but it's similar, right? So I could see this one playing out on the feet and being pretty fun in that area, and it'll be very compelling when it does go to the ground because that's going to happen. But yeah, I just struggle to see Moises winning just from what we've seen from both of them so far. And there are still a lot of question marks around Makhachev, I think, and Moises could pull it off, but everything is kind of pointing in the other direction against him. So it's an uphill battle. And I mean, 2 more rounds probably helps him out if he can survive the first 3 and maybe test the gas tank of Makhachev. So if you want to look at it that way, Pat, it definitely is a good indicator, or will tell us a bit more about Makhachev if that happens and we get answers to if he can go 5 rounds like we have yet to get with somebody like Zabit, so maybe avoid any of those potential worries by getting this 5-rounder out of the way now against somebody who is definitely not his biggest threat in the division. So maybe there's that thinking too.
Yeah, certainly could be. I think a big thing, again, that I'm just, realizing looking back at the card as well, is this is on ESPN, right? That's another huge part of this. This isn't ESPN Plus. This is supposed to be on ESPN Majors. So I'm very curious to see what these ratings will look like, because we'll actually have ratings. I can understand if this is the ESPN Plus card, you want to test out Makhachev in a main event 5-rounder to, as you said, test his gas tank, see what he looks like against some more seasoned competition. But I'm very curious as to see what the ratings will be on big ESPN, because people are going to tune into this and see the main event. And my guess is that most casual fans who have just turned on ESPN to see what sports are on are going to have no idea who he is or who Moises is. And I don't know that they'll necessarily stay. So that's another, consideration. I believe the way the contracts are written, the UFC has kind of full programming control. I'm sure ESPN could raise enough of a fuss that they would say, no, you've got to put something else in the main event. But for the most part, I'm pretty sure the UFC is in control of that. So you got to wonder how ESPN is going to feel if these ratings come back, extremely low because there's only so many cards that are on ESPN.
Right. And that's just another reason why you put this Miesha Tate Renault story up there, man. Like, I really don't think I need to break it down any more than I have already. But you mentioned going back to the Rousey rivalry. People remember that. Everybody knows about that who knows anything about MMA and Ronda, right? At least you would assume so. That's just one piece of it, Pat. We look at afterward, you get the Holly effect coming off of Ronda. People know Holly. Miesha with the Holly fight. Not only that, that was also on Diaz McGregor 2's card, right? Or was the first one? It was on the first card. Huge one. Yeah. UFC 200, Nunes and Tate. Like, she's got a good following and many eyeballs, and people will be like, where's she been? And be surprised. I didn't even need to go that far into it, but here we are. So it's very, very interesting. And I really think that maybe the not wanting to do 5 rounds on their part or one of their parts has to be one of the bigger, if not biggest reason that's not taking this spot here.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think that's got to play into it. I'm not sure what the other reason would be why you don't have them in the main event.
And this isn't to say too that they should be a main event at this stage in their careers, right? A lot of question marks about Miesha too coming back. Renault's on a 4-fight losing streak. Arguable, maybe some in there, but it's still a 4-fight losing streak. Fight shouldn't be a main event, but under these circumstances where we're pretty thin on options, it's still got a great story to it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. And let us know in the comments how you feel about Makhachev versus Moises being elevated to the main event, especially over fights like Tate and Renault and Stevens versus Gamrot. Let us know your thoughts in general about, this card. Are you excited when you look at this card? Are you like, yeah, I can't wait to tune in? Or you're like, I might skip this one. Let us know all your thoughts and feelings surrounding it. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe button, bell notification. And yeah, I just hope it's a good card at this point.
Always.
That's it. Yeah.
Always.
Yeah. But that's really my only motivation for watching the card. It's like, I get to see some good fights. Like, at this point, what are you going to do?